Hello, my name is Madeline Wiener, and in this webinar, I will be discussing drug pricing. I will first address some of the reasons drug costs are so high. Then I will go on to address the solutions being taken to address high drug costs and how you can become involved in fixing the issue. Let's start by addressing why drug prices are so high. There are 3 reasons I will outline in this presentation as to why drug pricing is so high. There are many other factors not included in this presentation that cause high drug costs, but I find it important to highlight these 3. First, drug pricing is so high because of the cost drug companies invest in advertising. Drug companies will choose to advertise new drugs in direct-to-consumer advertisements. To take on the cost incurred for advertising, drug companies will deliberately raise the cost of drugs being advertised, even though the drug may not be as effective as less advertised drugs. As a result of the advertising, drugs that are advertised experience an increase in demand. Consumers will then go out to purchase the advertised drugs at a higher cost than what they are worth, which enables the drug companies to make back what they spent on advertising plus more. Globally, the United States is one of the only countries that allows for direct-to-consumer advertising in the pharmaceutical industry. Another reason drug costs are so high is because of legal maneuvers. Legal action taken by drug companies leads to a low amount of competition within the pharmaceutical industry, which causes higher drug prices. The companies making drugs make many attempts to extend the monopoly they have on a certain drug. This can be done by taking legal action in the form of patents and lawsuits against competitors, or by legally merging with another drug-making company to avoid any competition among prices. All these legal maneuvers reduce competition, which enables drug manufacturers to charge a high price because their drug is the only option for many consumers. The final reason I will outline in this presentation for the reasoning behind high-costing drugs is cost sharing. Cost sharing is the splitting of cost of a prescription drug between a consumer and their insurance company. This results in consumers seeing larger out-of-pocket costs for their prescriptions. Because of cost sharing, consumers are required to pay a hefty sum of out-of-pocket cost for the prescription drugs they may rely on. While cost sharing was first implemented to make consumers research options for their healthcare treatment, it ended up negatively affecting many consumers. Due to the high cost of many prescriptions, some consumers are forced to choose between other necessities or their prescriptions. According to a study conducted by various PhD holders, an increase in out-of-pocket costs for the consumer typically resulted in poorer health outcomes. So while cost sharing seemed like a good solution at the time, it's been proven that it doesn't really work well for reducing high drug cost. Now that I've outlined some of the factors that are causing high drug costs, I will address some of the solutions being taken to address these inflated prices. One of the major reforms to high drug costs that is currently being enacted is the Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act, shortened to the IRA, has been one of the most recently enacted plans targeted at reducing drug costs. It plans to tackle the high drug cost in several ways. The IRA intends on reducing the out-of-pocket costs people pay on prescription drugs by expanding the cap on drug pricing to all private insurance companies. That way, the private insurance companies pay a larger portion of the drug cost than they currently do for prescription drugs. The IRA also outlines a plan to require big pharma to pay rebates whenever their drug price increases exceed the increase in inflation. The rebates will help to decrease the prices of drugs. The IRA is also helping to aid people in affording their drugs by implementing a smoothing mechanism into Medicare Part D payment plans. The smoothing mechanism will allow beneficiaries of Medicare Part D to pay for their prescriptions in monthly installments, which are capped at a certain amount. The smoothing mechanism makes monthly prescription payments more predictable, so while drug costs are not necessarily reduced by this action, they're easier to pay because of their predictability. However, despite all the good the IRA is designed to do, there are parts of the IRA that are negative. The IRA wants to give Medicare higher negotiation powers. However, the type of negotiation the IRA has proposed would hinder innovation in the pharmaceutical industry. Pharmaceutical startups are unable to afford selling their newly innovated drugs at lower cost, and if a negotiation power was implemented into Medicare, then startups would be less enticed to innovate new drugs. While the IRA is a step in the right direction to tackling the issue of rising drug costs, there's much in the plan that needs to be reformed. Until these reforms are made, the IRA will not be able to reach its full potential. While the U.S. government is the main actor that is currently working to lower high drug costs, there are things that the average citizen can be doing as well. So how can you get involved in reducing high drug costs? One way you can reduce drug costs in your day-to-day life is by using generic medications instead of brand name medications. This is a short-term solution to lowering the cost you potentially pay for a prescription. Brand name medications tend to be more expensive, even though they usually do the same thing as generic medications. Using generic medications may be the solution for you to getting the medication you need at a reasonable price. However, it is always important to consult a doctor before switching to a different prescription. Some long-term solutions to getting involved in reducing high drug costs involve supporting legislation that the government is currently working on. Some legislation to support includes 340B and saving access to laboratory services, which can be abbreviated to SALSA. 340B is a current piece of legislation that is being worked on in Congress. If passed, 340B will reduce drug prices by prohibiting insurers and pharmacy benefit managers, also abbreviated as PBMs, from discriminating against 340B providers or their contract pharmacies. Currently, 340B providers and contract pharmacies are discriminated against because of their status as providers or pharmacies that dispense 340B drugs. This discrimination allows PBMs to make additional profits from the 340B program when the money should be being reinvested into health center patient care. By supporting 340B, you can ensure that providers and contract pharmacies under 340B can better provide for their patients' needs and actually reinvest the money into health center patient care. Another bill currently being discussed in Congress is SALSA. If SALSA is passed, it will not directly reduce drug prices, but will help in alleviating the cost of medical bills by serving as a check on the Protecting Access to Medicare Act, which can be abbreviated to PAMA. If passed, SALSA will repair the flawed payment methodology system that was put in place by PAMA. Essentially, SALSA will increase rate stability and protect against sudden shocks that would affect the clinical laboratory fees schedule. You can support SALSA by sending out a pre-generated email to your government official using the link you see on the screen. It won't take longer than a minute. The solutions I outlined in this presentation are just a few ways to actively participate in creating reduced and more stable drug prices, but there are plenty of other ways to get involved too. A quick Google search will take you to the different methods in which you can get involved in helping to reduce drug pricing. Thank you for watching this webinar on drug pricing. If you enjoyed this webinar and found any of the information helpful, please consider checking out our other webinars or subscribing to our monthly newsletter, which can be done on the RetireSafe website. RetireSafe is a nonprofit organization and therefore relies on donations from you to produce webinars like these. So please consider donating if you can. Any donations made to RetireSafe are tax exempt under Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code. Thank you for tuning into this webinar and have a wonderful rest of your day.